We are in Dhanbad. The government just activated the Zero Coal Leakage Plan, a strict, technology-driven mandate to permanently shut down illegal mining operations. The directive stems from a July 2026 high-level meeting chaired by the Union Home Minister, demanding total compliance. He is joined by the Ministry of Coal. Their objective is absolute: lock down national resources and plug a massive leak in state revenue. You are the subdivisional magistrate. It is your job to execute this rigid policy in your district. But the reality in the coalfields is messy. You suspect a deep network of collusion connecting corrupt local officials to a regional mafia. And at the bottom of this hierarchy are hundreds of impoverished laborers who rely on this illegal extraction simply to survive. You lack hard evidence. Pushing this up the chain on suspicion alone will likely trigger retaliation and derail your career. But if you blindly execute the new mandate and conduct house arrests, you destroy the local laborers while the mafia bosses walk away. Standard protocols offer a binary choice: enforce the law and trigger a humanitarian crisis, or protect the laborers and violate a federal mandate. This deadlock reveals the limits of the administrative rulebook. To move forward, we have to look for a framework that accounts for both probity and distributive justice. Every resolution starts with a strict accounting of stakeholders: the investigating officer, the state, corrupt officials, poor laborers, and the environment. The crisis emerges when their interests collide, forming three specific tension lines. The first tension line is institutional probity against personal cost. It is your duty to report the truth, but doing so without protection guarantees professional retaliation. The assassination of engineer Satyendra Dubey proved exactly what happens when institutional failure leaves a whistleblower exposed to a local mafia. It is a lethal historical reality. The second line isolates law enforcement versus distributive justice. Punishing a crime is required by the mandate, but treating economically coerced laborers as malicious actors creates deep social injustice. The third line questions the limits of the mandate itself. Blanketing local communities in high-resolution surveillance cameras pits technological enforcement directly against civilian privacy. When standard procedures force you to choose between the law and the lives of those it governs, the logic of the rulebook breaks down. We need a way to weigh these competing obligations simultaneously. We will run this scenario through different ethical frameworks to see which policies survive. We start with Immanuel Kant's deontological ethics, applying it straight to the corrupt officials and the mafia. Kant argues for duty's sake. As an SDM, your obligation to enforce the law and report the truth. The potential damage to your career is irrelevant to the moral rightness of the action. But if we apply Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism to the overall scenario, the policy looks very different. Bentham calculates the greatest happiness for the greatest number. By this logic, ruthless and immediate enforcement maximizes state revenue, secures national resources, and benefits the vast majority of citizens. The flaw in this approach is that it categorizes the starvation of the vulnerable laborers as an acceptable collateral cost for the benefit of the state. Kant gives us a suicidal officer, and Bentham gives us starving citizens. Both frameworks, applied strictly, result in a policy that addresses the theft of coal but ignores the human cost. We correct this by introducing Mahatma Gandhi's principles of trusteeship and his talisman. Gandhi viewed natural resources as a public trust, not state property to be aggressively policed. His framework requires us to measure the success of any policy by its impact on the weakest members of society, the laborers. Next, we apply John Rawls and his concept of the veil of ignorance to ensure systemic fairness. Rawls asks you to design the policy without knowing if you will wake up tomorrow as the investigating magistrate, the mafia boss, or the starving laborer. This forces you to construct an outcome that protects the vulnerable while maintaining order. Finally, we finalize the administrative approach with Aristotle's golden mean. Aristotle rejects the extremes. Total bureaucratic apathy is a failure. Ruthless, blind punishment is also a failure. The correct path is a balanced, restorative justice model. True ethical administration takes the requirements of the law and filters them through the compassion of these three thinkers to achieve a viable field strategy. We can now translate these philosophies into a definitive 5-point administrative action plan. Action 1. You must initiate covert evidence gathering and preliminary investigations. This satisfies the core value of objectivity without risking premature exposure. Action 2. Formally invoke the Whistleblowers Protection Act of 2014. You secure your institutional protection first, directly mitigating the risk established by the Satyendra Dubey precedent. Action 3. Execute a dual approach. You apply Kantian duty by directing strict legal action exclusively at the mafia leaders. Simultaneously, you apply Gandhian compassion by proposing alternative livelihood plans for the displaced laborers. Actions 4 and 5. Implement systemic reform. Deploy the mandated surveillance technology in a privacy-conscious manner and institute regular social audits for long-term accountability. This structured approach untangles the initial chaos. It provides a path forward that is legally sound and ethically calibrated. Elite governance is the act of holding contradictory realities in your hands, the unyielding rule of law on one side and profound human compassion on the other, and using ethical frameworks to forge a way through them.